Welcome to the Recaps channel. In today's video, we'll recap EuroTrip. Let's get started. After graduating high school, Scott's girlfriend Fiona breaks up with him because she finds him too predictable. However, he doesn't let that stop him from attending the great graduation party that evening with his best friend Cooper. At the party, they meet up with their friends Jenny and Jamie, who are planning a trip to Europe. Jenny really wants to visit Paris. During the party, Fiona runs up on stage when a song about her and Scott's intimate encounters is played, causing everyone to cheer except for Scott, who is in disbelief. Scott spends the rest of the night drinking and later vents his emotions at home. He receives a sympathetic email from his German pen pal Mieke, whom he has been friends with for a few years. Drunk and misunderstanding the situation, Scott mistakenly believes Mieke is a predator and tells him to stay away. The next morning, Scott's brother reads his emails and realizes that Scott has harshly rejected a girl from Germany named Mieke. He explains that Mieke is actually a girl and a common feminine name in Germany. Scott realizes his mistake and regrets his actions. Cooper suggests that the only way to make amends is to go to Berlin and apologize to Mieke in person. Scott initially makes excuses but changes his mind when Fiona is mentioned. To fund their trip, Cooper suggests working as couriers and delivering a package near Berlin. However, they end up getting tickets to London instead. On their flight to London, Cooper reveals his intention of pursuing European women. Upon arriving in London, they encounter soccer hooligans who mistake them for members of a Manchester United fan club. Scott claims they are also members from Ohio, and to prove it, they are asked to sing the club's theme song. Scott, fearing trouble, starts singing a random song, but surprisingly, the hooligans find it good and welcome them. The next day, Mieke's friend helps unblock Scott's email, and Mieke confesses her love for Scott. However, Scott wakes up and realizes it was just a dream. He and Cooper are still with the Manchester United fans, uncertain of their next move. Maynard, the leader of the fan club, informs Scott that they are headed to Paris to watch a game. Remembering that the twins are in Paris, Scott decides to contact them. In Paris, Scott and Cooper manage to escape from the Manchester fans and reunite with the twins. They explain the situation with Mieke, which surprises Jamie and Jenny. The group decides to visit the Louvre, where they encounter a street performer. Scott tries to imitate the performer, leading to a fight between the two, with Scott eventually emerging as the victor by kicking the performer in the nuts. Later, the group is at a restaurant, and Cooper suggests that the twins join them in Berlin. Jenny agrees, but Jamie initially hesitates. However, Scott persuades him, and they proceed to buy train tickets. Jamie keeps the tickets and everyone's money and passports in his travel money belt to prevent theft. Cooper notices Jenny's behind, initially not knowing it was Jenny. Instead of heading straight to Berlin, they make several stops to fully enjoy their EuroTrip. While singing "Scotty Doesn't Know" in their train compartment, a Frenchman joins them and sits between Cooper and Jamie, despite other empty compartments being available. They let him stay because they don't understand the language. The Frenchman turns out to be strange, and Jamie is left alone with him during the journey. Things escalate in the next tunnel, and the Frenchman is eventually kicked out. They disembark at Cran-sur-Mer in northern France and are tempted to visit the nude beach there. However, they are disappointed to find mostly men at the beach. The situation worsens when Jenny arrives, and the crowd notices a girl among them. They continue their journey and head to Amsterdam. Scotty is anxious about meeting Mieke and expresses doubts, but Cooper assures him that everything will be fine. Scott has another dream about Mieke, involving making out. On the train, the Frenchman returns and inappropriately touches and licks Scott. In Amsterdam, they have to wait until morning for their next train. Cooper finds a flyer for the hottest club in the city's red light district and decides to visit it alone, despite the others disagreeing. The club's hostess welcomes Cooper and assures him that all his fantasies will be fulfilled. In a coffee shop, Scott and Jenny enjoy legal hash brownies, while Jamie goes to a camera store to buy a new battery and clean the camera. The saleswoman compliments Jamie's camera and finds him attractive, inviting him to the back of the store. She engages in oral sex with him. Back at the club, the hostess handcuffs Cooper to the bed, and the mood suddenly changes when other individuals enter the room. Cooper tries to recall the safe word but fails to read it, causing suspense. Meanwhile, Jamie is clumsily robbed of their money, passports, and tickets while still involved in the sexual encounter. Jenny and Scott become increasingly anxious and laugh uncontrollably. Scott suspects that the hash brownies were of poor quality. The waiter clarifies that their coffee shop is a simple bakery and does not sell hash brownies. Cooper continues struggling to remember the safe word, leading to an unexpected outcome. The group decides not to discuss what happened and attempts to hitchhike to Berlin. Cooper is frustrated that Jamie is the only one who had a romantic encounter in Amsterdam. Eventually, a car stops, but the driver doesn't speak English. Scott, with his limited German skills, asks the driver if he can take them to Berlin. The driver shares funny anecdotes about his experiences in Berlin and mentions not wanting to go back there. Scott interprets this as a yes and believes they have arrived in Bratislava, Slovakia. The city looks unappealing, and when they ask a local about the train schedule, he humorously informs them that they are currently building the train. After counting their remaining cash, which amounts to $1.83, they are surprised to discover that the local currency allows them to stay in a luxurious hotel with exceptional service and food. Scott tips the staff a nickel, leading him to quit immediately and plan to open his own hotel. With only 27 cents left, they visit a local club where the song, "Scotty Doesn't Know," is playing. Cooper becomes interested in Jenny, but she is accompanied by Christoph, whom she met in Paris and happens to own the club in Bratislava. Intrigued by Christoph, Jenny follows him to the VIP room, leaving Cooper disappointed. Three boys try a drink called the Green Fairy, rumored to be illegal in the States and induce hallucinations. They claim not to feel anything until Jenny takes a sip. Christoph has a wife and is bisexual, prompting Jenny to leave. Cooper spots Jamie passionately kissing someone, but it turns out to be Jenny, which shocks them both. Cooper teases the twins, and Jamie feels embarrassed. A random local offers them a ride to Berlin. Finally, they arrive in Berlin, and Scott locates Mieke's apartment building. However, Mieke's father informs Scott that she is away for the summer and recently decided not to visit America, which Scott believes is because of him. Mieke's stepbrother raises suspicion. Mieke's father reveals that she is participating in a summer program in Rome, boarding a ship the next day and becoming unreachable until the end of the summer. Scott urges his friends to find a way home, while he is determined to reach Rome at any cost. Jamie sells his camera and provides cash for their trip. They quickly fly to Rome, where Mieke is with her tour group. By pretending to be a private tour group, they gain entry despite the guards' initial resistance. Scott poses as a disabled child, and Jamie acts as their guide. While Jamie impresses the guards by substituting for a sick guide, Scott and Cooper search for Mieke, who happens to be one floor above them. Mieke's guide mentions a rope attached to the bell of San Marco, which is rung when a pope dies to notify the people of Rome. Cooper accidentally pulls the rope, leading them to enter the wrong restricted area as the bell rings, causing people to believe that the pope has died. In the restricted room, Cooper discovers the pope's hat and Scott warns him to stop playing around. Cooper playfully places the hat on Scott's head, but accidentally sets it on fire and throws it into a fireplace. The smoke from the burning hat signifies the election of a new pope, just as Mieke's group is leaving the chapel. Amidst the smoke-filled room, Scott tries to open a window and spots Mieke in the crowd. He clumsily gets out onto the balcony, pretending to be the new pope, and the crowd cheers, thinking he is the chosen one. Scott even makes it onto the news. After calming everyone down, he calls out for Mieke, removes the curtains and hat, slides down a banner, and runs towards her. However, he is stopped by the guards, and both Scott and Cooper find themselves in serious trouble. Just then, their friends from the Manchester United fan club arrive and intervene, instructing the guards to leave their friends alone. Scott finally musters the courage to express his feelings to Mieke, confessing that he traveled across Europe just to be with her. Mieke is speechless. They find a confession booth where they can be alone and have a moment together. Emerging from the booth, Mieke still can't believe that Scott made such a grand gesture for her. She asks him to continue writing to her, and he promises that he will. One of the visitors, whom Jamie had given a guide to, praises his skills and offers him the opportunity to visit all the museums in Europe. At the airport, the three friends make their way back to the United States. Cooper had a good time in Europe, although he didn't pursue any romantic relationships with the local girls, except for a brief encounter with Jenny. 3 months later, Scott moves into his dormitory. While on a phone call with Cooper, who is now with Jenny, Cooper asks Scott about his new roommate's appearance. Surprisingly, there is a knock on Scott's door, and it's Mieke, who has been assigned to the same room due to another misunderstanding about her name. Scott and Mieke embrace and get into bed together, while Cooper calls for Scott on the other end of the still ongoing call. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share if you enjoyed the video. See you again here on the Recaps channel.